Now, our political editor, Jane Patterson, joins us from Parliament. Good evening to you, Jane.
Good evening, Alex.
This is an extraordinary state of affairs, isn't it?
It is. The events that have unfolded today have been quite incredible. Firstly, we were waiting to see Simon Bridges reveal the results of that inquiry into the leak, and just minutes before, Jami-Lee Ross letting loose with an incredible series of tweets directly attacking Simon Bridges, making a range of extraordinary allegations, and Simon Bridges, of course, denying it all and still pinning the leak, the responsibility for the leak, on his MP, Jami-Lee Ross.
Now, Jane, it's going to be a big day tomorrow as well. I mean, they've got a caucus meeting. What are some of the more likely options or possibilities that can come out of it?
Well, the first one is suspension from the caucus, and that can be for a set amount of time. The next one up is expulsion from the caucus, and that is basically when an MP has been seen by his peers or her peers to have, serious misconduct. That is only for the most serious of situations. Now, Simon Bridges said today that caucus would meet. They will be given the PwC report and the opinion from John Billington QC to look at, and after that they will be asked what action as a caucus they could take or they want to take against Jami-Lee Ross. Now, Mr Bridges said that suspension was what he was talking about and that expulsion wasn't really on the table, but he may just be leaving the way for his MPs to maybe push towards that conclusion and to be able to say that he hadn't been the one wanting to kick Jami-Lee Ross out of the caucus altogether. I imagine that there will not be a lot of sympathy for Mr Ross in that caucus room tomorrow. We've spoken to some senior MPs and they're already taking a pretty hard line against Mr Ross. Now, interestingly, if he is expelled from the caucus, the Walkerjumping legislation that National strongly opposed is now in place, and if he is expelled, that means he's out of Parliament altogether.
That's right. I was going to bring that up, Jane, because the freshest of laws, the Walkerjumping law, is going to come into effect, and we could have a by-election on our hands.
That's right. So if an MP is expelled from their caucus, it's still up to them as to whether they stay in Parliament or not. That was under the old regime. So we have had situations where MPs have been expelled, and New Zealand First, Brendan Horan was one of them. A very messy breakup from his party, New Zealand First, but he stuck it out as an independent in Parliament and then left Parliament at the next general election. But under this situation, an MP, whether they're a list MP or an electorate MP, is left with no choice. Their seat becomes vacant. Mr Ross is the MP for Botany, so if that happens, there will be a by-election in that electorate. That is all taking a couple of steps forward. We don't know that is going to be the case yet, but they are definite options on the table at the moment as MPs come to Parliament tomorrow, really to decide his fate.
OK, moving from Jami-Lee Ross to the leader, Simon Bridges. What does this do, Jane, to his leadership? He could have put this to rest long ago and saved face. We can describe today as Jami-Lee Ross throwing a grenade at Simon Bridges, but really it's the leader himself who's pulled the pin.
So the question of judgment really does come back to that decision to call the inquiry in the first place. Now, at the time that the leak was made to Newshub, his initial reaction was to shrug it off, that he wasn't really that worried about it. But later on that day, he came out and really wanted an inquiry, and a full inquiry was ordered by the Speaker. Of course, that would later be cancelled. But the momentum to start an inquiry, and remember, this is an investigation that required all MPs to effectively sign privacy waivers. So opening up all their communications, and we've read in the report that it was texts, phone calls, the metadata of who called whom and when, but also internet browsing history, all sorts of different things. So he ordered that, and the run out of events, really, the rollout of events over the past month since that happened in August has really brought a lot of attention on Simon Bridges' leadership, his judgment in making that inquiry. Now, I imagine that the caucus will rally around him tomorrow in the face of such an extraordinary attack by Jami-Lee Ross. But once the dust settles, I think there will be more questions about his handling of this, and also just the complete distraction this has become for National. Instead of holding the government to account, really since August, a lot of the talk when it comes to the National Party has been around the leak and the inquiry ordered by Mr Bridges himself.
Thank you very much for your information and analysis tonight. That's our political editor, Jane Patterson, from our parliamentary office.